Confidence is usually loud. It performs, it persuades, it posts, it defends itself in real time. But there is another kind, quieter, harder to see. It doesn't ask to be witnessed. It doesn't scan the room for approval. It doesn't rehearse arguments in the shower. It doesn't need proof. That kind of confidence is rarely built in applause. It is built in pressure. And it often begins in a house where childhood ended early. When a child becomes responsible for things no child should manage: parent moods, sibling safety, emotional stability of the household, something shifts. What family therapist Ivan Bushiminyangi described as parentification is, in lived terms, simple. The child becomes the regulator, the steady one, the emotional adult in a small body. No ceremony marks this promotion. It happens quietly. A parent is depressed, or volatile, or overwhelmed, or absent in ways that are not visible from the outside. The child learns to read tone before words, learns to scan for tension in the air, learns that their own needs are negotiable, but the family's survival is not. That child does not develop confidence through praise. They develop it through competence. They learn early, if I don't hold this together, no one will. That belief wires itself deep. Attachment research from John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth made something painfully clear. Children build their sense of safety from consistent, attuned care. When that attunement is unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, sometimes frightening, the child's nervous system adapts. It does not complain, it recalibrates. Some children cling harder, some detach, some do both at once. The child who becomes prematurely competent often suppresses the visible need for care. They become low maintenance, mature for their age, so responsible. Adults praise this. They call it strength, but the nervous system calls it survival. Chronic childhood stress reshapes biology. Bruce McEwen's work on allostatic load showed how repeated stress doesn't just create emotional strain, it alters the body's baseline. Stress hormones become familiar. Vigilance becomes normal. Rest feels suspicious. When safety is inconsistent, the brain prioritizes prediction over softness. Hypervigilance develops not as dramatic anxiety, but as quiet threat anticipation. Trauma research, including the work of Bessel van der Kolk, has shown how overwhelming stress imprints itself in the body, in posture, breath, muscle tension. The child learns to anticipate shifts in mood, footsteps in hallways, silence that lasts too long. They become good at knowing what's coming. They become less good at knowing what they need. Over time, this adaptation crystallizes into something that looks like confidence. They don't panic easily. They don't fall apart publicly. They don't require constant reassurance. But look closer. Their confidence is built on the assumption that support is unreliable. They do not expect to be rescued. They do not expect to be chosen first. They do not expect someone else to carry weight, so they carry it themselves. This kind of confidence doesn't need proof because it was never dependent on praise. It was dependent on function, on utility, on being necessary. It says, I can handle it even when it is too much. Emotional suppression becomes part of the architecture. James Gross demonstrated how suppression can regulate outward behavior effectively in the short term. In chaotic environments, suppression is intelligent. It keeps the system stable. It prevents escalation. But suppressed emotion does not disappear. It stores. The child who learned not to cry because crying escalated things grows into an adult who feels tightness instead of sadness, who calls loneliness independence, who calls exhaustion discipline. This adult appears self-contained. They are rarely dramatic, rarely impulsive, rarely messy. But inside, the nervous system is still scanning. Confidence without proof often looks like hyper-independence. They don't ask for help, not because they're arrogant. Who was asking once felt dangerous, or disappointing, or futile. Research on early shame by scholars such as Michael Lewis and Alan Shaw shows how a child whose need for comfort is met with dismissal internalizes a belief. Needing care is wrong, burdensome, weak. So the child adapts. They stop needing, or at least they stop showing it. In adulthood, this shows up as guilt for resting, guilt for delegating, guilt for leaning. Rest feels earned only after collapse. Support feels transactional. Vulnerability feels like exposure. They may be deeply empathetic. Many are. But their empathy is guarded. They can understand your pain. They can sit with it calmly. They can offer practical clarity. But when it comes to their own pain, something tightens. Confidence without proof does not chase validation. It also does not fully trust safety. Relationships reveal this most clearly. They are steady partners, loyal friends, reliable co-workers. They show up. They solve problems. They rarely create chaos. But intimacy unsettles them. Not because they don't want it, because closeness threatens the old structure. If someone gets too close, they might see the fatigue, the guardedness, the unprocessed grief. Or worse, they might expect to take care of them. And the nervous system whispers, "That's not safe." Attachment disruption does not always create visible instability. Sometimes it creates quiet distance, a subtle leaning away, an internal backup plan. Even in love, they might think, "I don't need anyone." But beneath that is often, "I learned not to rely on anyone." The confidence is real, but it is not relaxed. It is coiled. These adults often struggle with rest in ways that confuse them. They may take vacations and feel uneasy. They may sit still and feel agitation. The body, conditioned by years of readiness, does not interpret stillness as neutral. Stillness once meant waiting for something to happen. So productivity becomes regulation, achievement becomes anesthesia, being useful becomes identity. The world rewards this. Employers praise them, friends admire them, partners rely on them. Few notice the cost. Chronic vigilance does not disappear when the environment changes. The body does not automatically update its threat assessment. Allostatic load accumulates. Tension lingers in shoulders. Sleep is shallow. There is an underlying hum of preparedness. Confidence without proof often feels like, "I will be fine, no matter what." But sometimes that translates to, "I will not let myself fall apart, no matter what." There is a difference. The child who managed adult responsibilities develops uneven emotional growth. Certain capacities are advanced problem-solving, crisis management, emotional containment. Others are underdeveloped play, spontaneity, soft dependency. This is not a flaw. It is an allocation of resources. When survival is the priority, softness is optional. As adults, they may feel older than their peers in some ways, and younger in others. They might handle professional pressure with ease, but freeze when asked, "What do you need right now?" The question itself feels foreign. Confidence that doesn't need proof does not seek applause. It does not crave constant affirmation. It is not fragile in the face of criticism, but it can be rigid. Because flexibility requires safety. The safety was once inconsistent. They may struggle to receive care, not reject it openly. Just deflect it, minimize it, make jokes, change the subject, offer help instead. Care creates a subtle discomfort, a tightening in the chest, a feeling of indebtedness. The old equation returns. If someone gives to me, I owe them. If I owe them, I am vulnerable. If I am vulnerable, I am at risk. So they remain self-sufficient. Externally, this looks powerful. Internally, it can feel isolating. Confidence without proof is not the same as secure confidence. Secure confidence rests. It trusts. It leans back sometimes. This kind does not. It stands guard. Even joy can feel measured. They may struggle to fully celebrate themselves. Achievements are acknowledged, then quickly absorbed into the baseline. There is no dramatic high, because highs were once dangerous. Excitement might have been followed by disappointment. Hope might have been followed by letdown. So the nervous system learned moderation. Stay steady. Don't expect too much. Prepare for shifts. Over time, this creates a person who appears emotionally stable, rarely reactive, rarely chaotic. But stability born from vigilance is not the same as stability born from safety. The cost is subtle. Chronic tension, difficulty receiving, a persistent sense of being slightly separate, even in connection, an inability to fully exhale. None of this means something is broken. It means something worked. In childhood, these adaptations were intelligent, necessary, protective. The child who suppressed tears prevented escalation. The child who anticipated threats reduced chaos. The child who took responsibility maintained structure. These were not personality traits. They were nervous system strategies under pressure. But the environment changed. The strategies did not. Confidence without proof often masks a deeper reality. The belief that safety must be self-generated. And self-generated safety is exhausting. There is grief here. Not dramatic grief. Quiet grief. For the softness that was postponed. For the dependency that never felt safe enough to express. for the version of self that might have developed under different conditions. The world sees composure. The body carries memory. The unsettling truth is this: what looks like unshakable confidence may be a nervous system that never fully learned it could relax. Healing, if it happens, does not mean becoming dependent. It does not mean collapsing into fragility. It does not mean losing strength. It means something far more disorienting. It means discovering that rest does not have to be earned through exhaustion, that care does not require repayment, that safety does not need to be managed. For someone whose confidence was built in pressure, this realization does not feel immediately comforting. It feels unfamiliar. And unfamiliar, to a nervous system trained in vigilance, can feel like threat. But the deeper truth remains: real confidence does not come from proving you can survive alone. It comes, often for the first time, from realizing you no longer have to.